Transactions. I'm your host, Jean Newell with Waterview Realty. And in the studios with me today, I have two Lacks. Wait a minute, that didn't sound right. I have Jonathan Lack. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Jean.
And he brought his son, Sam Lack.
Hi, Jean.
And Sam, you're here on internship from the University of Florida.
That's right.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Blue and orange. Yay.
Yeah.
So you're here kind of interning in Jonathan's office. And just as a little repeat for those of you that haven't been familiar with our show, Jonathan, tell us about your three offices that are combined and all the services that you provide.
Well, we like to consider ourselves a one-stop shop for real estate transactions. So the law firm is Lack & Lack Chartered, and that happens to be my father and me, not me and my son. But it's Lack & Lack Chartered. It might become Lack & Lack. We'll see. But in any event, we can be reached at area code 321-953-5115 or at lacklaw.com. That's LACKLAW.com. And we concentrate our practice on transactional real estate. And toward that end, we also have Waterview Title Services, which is a title insurance agency. And that's the company through which you close your real estate transaction. And finally, to get the ball rolling, actually, we have Waterview Realty Services. And Waterview Realty, Jean, is with whom you work and are one of our star agents, wherein we help you buy and sell your home. And our information there is waterviewre.com.
And Sam, you're still in school, but you have your real estate license, so you're following closely in your dad's footsteps.
That's true. I'm a rising senior at the University of Florida, and yes, I am a licensed sales associate.
Up in Gainesville,
Up in Gainesville, and also down here over the summer here in Brevard, and kind of just getting a whole overview of the real estate business, working for him and working with him.
Yes. And what is what are you focusing on in college?
So I have two majors. I'm studying political science and economics with the intent to go to law school upon graduating in May.
Mm-hmm. So we were trying to think of a little slogan that rhymes with lack. So I always say, we got your back at Lack & Lack, but we're going to have to come up with something a little bit better than that, right?
I like it. I'll put my mind to getting something a little better.
That's great. Well, we're so glad that you were able to join us today because we want to talk a little bit about real estate, about the generation, your generation, what they're looking for in real estate, how they're getting jobs, a little bit of everything. So the focus today is really on family and education because the show does focus on finance, family, real estate, garden, garage. I mean, we cover it all. So we wanted to just kind of have a little roundtable discussion about how we could maybe help people that are maybe selling their homes by themselves or they've got some questions about law. So it's just going to be like an open forum. You're here for the summer? Going to intern for the summer?
Yeah, that's the plan.
And you are part of let's talk a little bit about the Hardest Hit program because you're helping out your dad with the Hardest Hit program. And that's one of the big benefits. People don't realize that sometimes we've had people on last week and so forth about elder care, and they don't know how to maybe set up their wills and their trusts. And sometimes people get in a situation where they feel like they're forced to sell their house to pay perhaps their spouse's Medicaid or Medicare bills or their assisted living bills. And when people call our office and they say, would somebody come out and look at my house? I need to sell it. We like to ask the questions first. Why are you selling? Because if it's something that we might have an alternative plan in selling, that's some great information. And a lot of people don't realize that if they're behind on their payments or something like that, and that's the reason why they're selling, there might be an alternative. So, Jonathan, we haven't discussed this for the last couple weeks and about the Hardest Hit, but since Sam's here and he's really getting into it as well, let's talk a little bit about how that can be a benefit because most people don't understand the Hardest Hit program.
All right, Jean. Well, the Hardest Hit program is the state of Florida's program. It actually came from the umbrella of programs under the Obama administration, the Making Home Affordable program, but happily it was renewed. So we thought the program was going to be expiring at the end of 2016, but they renewed it through 2020 or 2021. I forget now, but in at least a 5-year renewal. So that's good news. And even under the Trump administration, at least for now, that program is still there. And it's designed to assist unemployed or underemployed homeowners with their mortgage payments. So if you've lost your job through no fault of your own, the economy has struck you in an adverse way, and you have a reduced income, either reduced down to zero or reduced by at least 10%, the state of Florida will step in and make your mortgage payment for you. Now, of course, there is eligibility criteria, so it's not that simple, but we have found that the program helps about 80% of our applicants. So if you've lost your job through no fault of your own, again, you didn't quit and you weren't fired for cause, you weren't thrown out of there for doing something wrong, but you've just, unfortunately, the economy has struck you adversely, then this program, the Florida Hardest Hit Fund, can actually make your mortgage payment for you and enable many people who come to me to help them with their foreclosure or help them to try to keep their home, or as you say, they come to sell their home because they don't see any alternative. This program has kept many people in their homes. Sam has been assisting me. Actually, the program, we've been handling it since 2011, and Sam has worked for me over many summers and holidays while he's been away at school, assisting with the program. So I don't know, Sam, if you have any comments or anything you could speak to how it affects people and how the benefit of the program.
I mean, with this program, you're getting a lot of people who come in with out of their luck and come asking you to save their home, and they come to you on, this is the last chance for them.
Right.
And you hear that in the phone calls. And so this program really is an opportunity to get a second chance and get an opportunity to get back on your feet. And so when the mortgage payments are being paid by the state of Florida, you're not responsible for them. And so it helps these people who are, unable to make the payment or have become unemployed and don't have a source of income. It lets them spend time searching for a job. And you hear the stories of people who the program has helped, and it makes you want to keep doing it.
I know, because I hear it all the time too. I'll pick up the phone and I'll say, my husband just died. I don't have, we're behind on our payments. We're nearing foreclosure. I mean, it's their help. They feel helpless. And then when you get in that downturn cycle, it just seems like you can't get ahead. And a lot of people don't understand that this program or know about it because they don't get on television and spend millions of dollars advertising that there's money available. But per person applying, it's up to about $42,000. Isn't that about the right?
Yeah, the government will pay up to $24,000 of mortgage payments, so up to $2,000 a month. It's for $24,000 or 12 months, whichever comes first. So they'll pay a year. And as you pointed out, Sam, people who are in this position are incredibly stressed, as you can imagine, unable to make their mortgage payment. And it's hard to focus on trying to find a job when bill collectors are calling and when you're trying to get something done, but they're constantly being hounded. So by alleviating that significant fear of losing your home and knowing that, okay, now I have a chance to focus on getting a job. Again, we have some, over the last 5-6 years, some amazing success stories where people who lost their job, stepped in, they got assistance for 3 or 4 months, they got another job, then they were able to refinance their home, they were able to do other things that, help the economy. Again, the plan isn't simply welfare and simply helping somebody who's down on their luck, but rather helping our entire economy by strengthening the community and enabling people to stay in their homes, look for gainful employment, and, be a benefit as opposed to a burden.
I think that 40-some thousand in my brain is because they'll also bring you up to date, because there's like 2 different arms of that program.
I'm sorry, I didn't finish the thought, which is
thank you.
The 18,000, the other 18,000. What happens is when somebody loses their job, unfortunately, they stop making their mortgage payment and they fall into a hole. And so let's say your mortgage is $2,000 a month and you've fallen into this hole for 3 months. And so you owe $6,000, and then you get a job and you're ready to pay. But you send in your $2,000 because that's what you can afford. And the bank says, no, you owe $8,000, the $2,000 for this month, plus the other $6,000. And banks, unfortunately, have not been that flexible and have not worked with people the way we would hope they would. So all of a sudden, you're finding yourself in foreclosure, even though you can afford it, because you can't deal with that $6,000. Well, the Hardest Hit program will reinstate and pay the arrearages that I just described up to $18,000. So you can be 10 months in the hole, or again, depends on $18,000 is the number, but you can be pretty deep in the hole, and the state will bring you current. And then if you need it, continue to make your mortgage payments for you. If in my example, where you got a job and you're back on your feet, they'll actually pay up to $25,000 in that scenario. But then you wouldn't get the mortgage assistance because you wouldn't need it. So the program is excellent. You can get more information. There's a link on our website at lacklaw.com. So if you go to lacklaw.com, click on the Florida Hardest Hit link, that will bring you to the official program website. You can also give us a call at 321-953-5115, and either myself, Sam, or Kim, who our primary advisor, can answer any questions for you, and we'd be happy to assist.
And you're the advisor for Broward and Brevard County and a couple other counties,
Yeah,
aren't
the way the program works is the state has set up advisors throughout the state, and I'm not sure the current number. I think there may be 70, and the territories are split up by county. Our office handles 5 different counties: Brevard, Broward, Palm Beach County, St. Lucie, and actually, I think we're down to 4. I think. Oh no, Indian River. We do have Indian River. You're right. So those are the 5, but primarily in Brevard County. And again, we can be reached at 321-953-5115 for any additional information you may have.
So anyone listening out there, if you know of a neighbor, a friend, a relative that has been out of work and you're thinking, I wonder how they've been making their mortgage payments, just tell them about this show, have them go online and listen to the archives, and that might just have been the best news they got all day, knowing about the Hardest Hit program. One of the things that people always call our office about, and because you, Jonathan, find different real estate sources because people come to you for probates or they've been left a home and a will and so forth. So we get a lot of clients that aren't your, I don't want to say typical, but that they're not your regular real estate clients because they might have a special issue or they're something.
Right. A lot of it's generated by the law office. Exactly. As opposed to a real estate company.
That's exactly right. And so we're always there to help advise people. And there's been so many times that we find out they've done something. Maybe they have sold a home and they didn't have to, or they've titled it wrong. So just like we always say, the professionals on the show are here to assist you and help you. Make sure that you haven't shot yourself in the foot by trying to do something on your own. So again, you want to seek out those professionals that can help advise you on what your circumstances are as opposed to what you think they are. And bringing that into play is we see a lot of times for sale by owners, and I always wonder why someone is trying to tackle that big job of selling their own home. So we thought we'd dedicate a few minutes today to help you if you're trying to sell your home yourself, perhaps give you some advice on maybe the benefits of having a real estate agent, but if you still don't want to go that route, what you need to know and what you need to be advised of when you're trying to sell yourself. So let's talk about that, but I always like, Jonathan, what you always say, the reasons why a real estate agent is needed and when they're not needed. Let's talk about that.
Right. Well, it's important to understand the roles of the different participants in a real estate transaction. I personally can assist with 3 of those roles, which is the attorney, the title company, and the real estate agent, and they each serve a different purpose. Now, there is some overlap, but they serve a different purpose. So when you're dealing with a for sale by owner, you're basically choosing to take the role of the realtor. That's your primary function of a realtor, is to find a buyer for your home. So when you hire a listing agent to list your home, that listing agent is going to market it, prepare the home. Jean will talk about this more in a moment, about all the different functions that the realtor plays. But if you're choosing to sell your home on your own, you're choosing to perform those functions. One of the functions that overlaps that you really should not attempt to do yourself is the contract. So assuming you find a buyer, you're still going to need a contract prepared and ultimately a title company to close the transaction. So even realtors ultimately refer to a title company. Somebody needs to search the title, make sure there's no liens, judgments, coordinate the payoffs of the loans, the things that a title company does, so as to provide clear title to the buyer. So regardless of whether you're a for sale by owner or using a realtor, you're going to need a title insurance company. But going back to the contract function, which can be performed by the realtor, realtors can prepare a contract on your behalf, or an attorney can prepare a contract on your behalf. It's not that you couldn't go onto the internet and find a contract and do it yourself, but I have been involved in many a lawsuit cleaning up contracts or messes or problems because of improper execution of a contract.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Most of the business we see is cleaning up something. They come in just days before closing, and now we have to undo something that sometimes can't be undone in a couple days. So that's one of the reasons why you have to be so very careful about trying to perform surgery on yourself. That's what we say. We wouldn't numb ourselves up to do surgery. But there's always different situations, and I'm always open to having a call from a for sale by owner, because I'd like to find out, why are you selling? Because again, if they're behind on their payments and they think they're ready for foreclosure, maybe they don't have to sell. Maybe we can help save them from foreclosure right now because of the hardest hit program. If they're trying to sell because foreclosure is very close, you can help from the law side, Jonathan, because you can defend foreclosure for a while. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, on the foreclosure defense side, the primary goal of foreclosure defense is to reach a resolution with the bank, whether it's to sell the home, and you'll often hear the term short sale. A short sale is when you owe the bank more than the property is worth. So in order to sell the home, the bank has to agree to accept a reduced payment on their debt, and that's called a short sale. A short payoff is really what it's referring to. The bank is accepting less than they're owed and allowing you to sell the property. A short sale is what I call a graceful exit from the home. It is better to sell the home yourself on your own terms with a regular closing. The unfortunate part is you usually don't walk away with money, though we often can get relocation money for our clients. We have a closing next week where the client is actually a short sale and still going to walk away with $3,000 in relocation funds. So every once in a while, though it's no guarantee, we can actually get some money out of the short sale process. But even if you don't, you still get to have a closing date, have your moving trucks, get out of the property on your own terms. Whereas the alternative is usually foreclosure, and that's where the bank goes through the court system and ultimately takes your home from you. And while, again, if you're a client of mine, you will be advised and we will prevent anything bad from happening, you still may lose your home. But for those who are ignorant and don't pay attention to the notices, the sheriff will ultimately show up and knock on your door and say, time to get out. And while you will get notice, many people sadly ignore those notices. This is not a case where being an ostrich is good thing. Burying your head in the sand will not make the problem go away.
But even if they come to you for advice, sometimes you can, if it's to the point where they have to do foreclosure, you can postpone it as much as possible legally. There's ways to legally postpone it.
Again, the law is such that I cannot, as an attorney, intentionally delay a legal process. That said, I can make the plaintiff, the bank, prove their case, and I can make them do all of the appropriate steps instead of taking shortcuts. And again, those who have been paying attention for the last 10 years or so, especially in 08, 9, 10, there were a lot of law firms who were just steamrolling over homeowners without following proper procedure. And then we defense attorneys stepped in and said, no, you may ultimately be able to take the home if they don't pay, but you're not just going to take it without following the rules. And so it is by enforcing those rules that we essentially protect the homeowner and use that as leverage to negotiate with the bank and try to create a win-win situation. It's an unfortunate state to be in, but if we can create a win-win, be it a short sale, a loan modification wherein they reduce your debt and enable you to stay in the home because you can now afford it with a reduced interest rate and extended term, a variety of things you can do with a loan modification, or other government programs, as we talked about the hardest hit. If the reason you're in arrears is because of a lost job, then again, there are programs out there that can assist you.
I know the hardest hit has several different arms to it. We talked about assisting you with a mortgage payment, but sometimes if people are current and they're not behind on their payment, but they're paying on a loan that's up to $50,000 over what the house is
Actually,
valued.
what you're referring to is the principal reduction program, and that is a separate program under the same guidance of the Florida Housing Finance Agency, Florida Housing Finance Corporation, which is the state financing agency. Pardon me. The principal reduction program is designed not for people who are in distress, but rather people who are making their mortgage payment, but they owe more than 115%, 115. So if your house is worth $100,000 and you owe $115,000, then the state will pay up to $50,000 to reduce your debt down to 100%. So in my example, if you owe 115 and it's worth 100, they'll give you $15,000 so that you only owe 100. If you owe 170 and it's worth 100, they'll give you 50,000. So you still owe 120. You're still upside down, but you've got $50,000 of free money. And we should mention in both of these programs, the Florida Hardest Hit Fund and the Principal Reduction Program, it is free to apply. So if you're interested in the program, you have any curiosity about it, of course, give us a call or go online and check it out. But it is free to apply. So the only thing you're doing by applying is spending some time. There is no money involved. And then the funds that are given are, I like to call them free. I'm not allowed to say it that way. There is what I call an asterisk. There is a payback if you sell the home, and it's a reducing debt, so I won't get into it on the air here. But if you sell the home within a 5-year period, you may have to pay some of the money back, but you may not. And if you keep the home for at least 5 years, then you do not have to pay the money back. So it is essentially free funds to keep you in your home. I
always say it's a funding that turns into a gift. It's a great opportunity. It wasn't set up for people to flip homes and so forth. It was set up for people that own their home and want to stay there and save their homestead. So that
the Principal Reduction Program is an excellent program. The idea was to get people down to 100% so that as they're making their mortgage payment, they are reducing, or they're building equity. They're reducing their debt and building equity. If you owe $120,000, $100,000 house, and you're paying a couple $100 a month towards principal, you're stuck in that house for 10, 12, 15 years before you get down to having equity. So this gives you that instant opportunity to have equity. So
when they pay down, when the hardest hit pays it down, then what do they do? Refinance it so then it becomes 100%?
No, what part of the program is the lenders who are participating, which is most lenders now, they will re-amortize your debt to lower your mortgage payment. Now, again, there are different criteria and different circumstances depending on the type of loan. FHA loans are different than VA loans, et cetera. But depending on the type of loan, essentially the lender will receive this, we'll call it $50,000 or $20,000, whatever it is, and they will reduce your principal, and then they'll recalculate your debt based on the new principal, which will have the effect of lowering your monthly mortgage payment.
That's right. There's just so many, and I know, Sam, you hear this all the time, like you alluded to earlier, that people call, that sometimes they're in tears, they're just all upset, and because they see this as and sometimes, how do they find out about it? Do you ever ask how they find out about the Hardest Hit program?
Well, we do try and find out where the source of the applicants come from. We are partnered with a few different agencies, especially with the Florida Hardest Hit program, as far as people who've been unemployed. So through like
Goodwill,
Goodwill and
Career Source.
Yeah, these agencies that are placing recently unemployed people. This is a great opportunity. While they're being placed, they can not have to worry about their mortgage payment. So that's how we get a lot of applicants. Also, we've got advisors out on the trail talking to people and presenting this program as a resource for people who might not know about it.
And your father, Jonathan Lack, you're a speaker at Career Source Brevard frequently, and also Goodwill has a lot of seminars, and there you share this advice. So there's a lot of things out here. Bottom line is there's a lot of things that you might not know as an audience, as a listener, of that's out there to help you, that you just need to know what they are. And that's why I'm glad to be a kind of a real estate advocate here to share our information, because without information, we're just stuck trying to figure out these things on our own, which brings us to some of the things that we'd like to help shine the light on as far as trying to sell property yourself and so forth. I always wonder why people try to do that themselves. And when I do talk to them, there's always a big reasoning. There's a lot of different reasons why they like to sell their home themselves. But usually, bottom line is, once they find out some of the things that they're going to have to do, all of a sudden finding the sources of a professional such as Jonathan Lack as an attorney or a title company or a professional real estate agent makes sense. But we're here to help you get your home ready. If that's going to be your avenue of a resource that you still would like to sell your home, let's think in terms of what a real estate agent does, and then you'll want to mirror what a real estate agent does. So if you're going to still try to tackle selling your home yourself, at least you know what to expect. So as an example, and Jonathan and Sam, please jump in. As an example, if I'm taking a buyer out to look at property, I'm not putting them in my car for many reasons without finding out, are they qualified already for a mortgage? Are they paying cash? So we always want to go to a mortgage company, have them get pre-qualified, pre-approved if possible, to go out and look at property, because sometimes people think they can afford more than they can, or they want to know exactly what price home that they should be looking at. So instead of wasting their time and perhaps a professional's time showing them around, and we find out that they can't even get qualified, why do that? So for sale by owner, you need to find out before you let these strangers into your home. You want to mirror what we do. If we go to the extreme of finding out if these people are qualified, perhaps when someone calls your home, you might want to find out, are you pre-qualified before allowing them to see their home, or are you paying cash or a mortgage? Because that, unfortunately, is a big scam that's happening out there in the real estate market. Even with real estate agents, there's been a lot of different types of situations where we get what would be the word, not burglarized, but it would be accosted or something as a agent, and they don't even like agents to show property by themselves. So you're opening your home up to basically strangers. So you're going to want to know who's coming into your home prior to showing it. So what comments do you have on that? How would someone maybe approach that situation if someone's calling on a for sale by owner and they say, hey, I'd like to see your home tomorrow? Do you have any ideas what you might want to advise someone to say to that potential client?
Well, as you point out, you'd want to speak with the potential purchaser and confirm that they're pre-qualified, confirm that they can come to the home to view it, ask them to bring what's called a pre-qualification letter. And it's really not a loan approval, but it's basically shows that they went to some lender who ran their credit and said, okay, you tell me you make this much money and here's your credit score. Okay, we'll make you this much of a loan. And that way, if they walk into your house with a pre-qualification letter for $100,000 and you're trying to sell your house for $250,000, you're not wasting your time showing it to somebody who clearly cannot afford it. By the same token, if they come in with $200,000 and you're trying to get it for $150,000, okay, good. You got a nice, strong buyer who can afford your home. Now the question is, will they want to buy it? But that would be a very important preliminary question.
I noticed too that, and the statistics will back me up on this, that most people calling for sale by owners are calling them because they can't work with a real estate agent for some reason. Perhaps they can't get qualified. They can't get the mortgage approval, and a real estate agent won't work with them because they can't get loans. And so they're thinking, if I call it for sale by owner, maybe I can talk them into holding paper. Maybe I can they'll finance my home for us. So you have people that are calling that are looking for that seller to participate in the mortgage. Sometimes people are just sometimes they're just nosy neighbors and they want to come in and see what you're doing. But one of the reasons that we always ask sellers to step away from the home when we're showing it is for several reasons. One is people are not comfortable walking around someone else's home with the seller right there because it makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable that they're looking in the seller's closets and so forth. So we have... Go ahead, Sam.
A lot of that, especially one of the reasons they say to maybe have the seller step out, is because you want to be able to picture yourself in this home as a buyer. And if the owner, for sale by owner, is the only one who's doing the selling and is in the home, it's going to be hard to picture for the buyer to feel like it could ever really be their home with.
Exactly. There's so many things to
negative comments and such
right.
that you're uncomfortable with. Well, Jean, I don't mean to cut you off, but I see we're running out of time here, and I'm wondering if we'd be able to continue this show next week.
Yes, let's do that.
I think it's important. There's a lot of, we got sidetracked with the Hardest Hit program, which is wonderful. And again, if you have questions on that, you can call Lack and Lack Chartered at 321-953-5115. But next week, why don't we discuss the for sale by owners and the many different things we can cover on that. And if Sam, can you come back with us next week?
I'll be here.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today on Your Hometown Solutions, where we cover everything real estate from foreclosures to feng shui. Thanks, everyone.